Okay, all right. We are on. Today's training is really fabulous. Okay, today we're going to be talking about how to close the sale in one call or less. So, if you guys don't already know me, my name is Sarah Glenn. I'm the creator and CEO of Social Jane Media. And I love to hop in weekly to provide either something tangible, right? Like last week or the week before, we were talking about Canva and like 3 tips that I totally wish I knew sooner. Because sometimes, you learn something new and you're like, whoa, that was really freaking easy. And I can't believe I didn't already know that. But we do these weekly trainings so that way you're not lost in the dark. You can grow a business on social media, you can create brand awareness, you can make sales, and you can do it in a way that doesn't feel spammy and gross. And you have fun doing it and you're learning new shit all the time. So, welcome to today's training. We're talking about how to close the sale in one call or less. Let me preface this. When I say or less, what I mean by that is you are doing most of the selling in your daily content, meaning you may not even need a call in order to close the sale. So, for example, what I have done over the last 6 months or so, honestly, it could be a little further back, but the way my content is presented, the way my content's laid out, um, the way I do my content on a daily and a weekly basis, it's done in a way that is relatively simple. So someone is seeing the information that I want them to see a couple times. They're not just seeing it once. They're seeing it perhaps via email. They're seeing it on a social media post. They're seeing it on a live training. They might be hearing about it in a podcast. So I allow myself to keep it really freaking simple. I give myself one big topic for the week and I really kind of focus on that. Sometimes I might sprinkle in other content throughout the week just based on stuff I'm learning, what's happening in my day, my week, right then and there at that moment in time. But that week's content is geared towards something. And so what I will find is that because my content's relatively clear, right? You know that I am in branding, you know that I do consulting work for branding, and I also do design work for branding. What you don't know as much about me is the network marketing business that I'm partnered with. That's something that I have conversations more on the back end than I do in my content. That's just a personal choice that I make. So when I tend to get new clients, it's usually because they continue to see my content. And for them, they just have to be ready, right? They know they want to work with me and maybe they're just not ready for it right then and there. Well, I keep showing up, right? I'm going to keep showing up whether they're ready or not because someone is always ready. Someone is always ready to take that next step with you in your business. So keep showing up. Even if the person that you're like, gosh, I really want to work with them, why aren't they just saying yes? Give them the space they need and keep showing up. Keep checking in on them, right? Keep the relationship building, but don't put your business on pause because someone else isn't ready to go all in with you yet. So what typically happens for me and when I get new clients, I'll usually get a comment on a post or I'll get someone DMing me straight into, Messenger or on Instagram and they're like, "Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready now. I've been showing up to your lives. You've been pouring like insane amounts of value. I've been learning a bunch of stuff. I've implemented a bunch of stuff, but I'm ready. We need to work together. I want to take my brand to the next level. I'm ready to start implementing automation. I'm ready to finally get my lead magnet launched. Like I'm ready to finally get a website built for my business, right? So whatever it is, whatever level they're at, because I show up in various ways and I do various types of trainings, they understand that it doesn't really matter if they're beginner, intermediate, advanced in their business, that I have tools that will help them at every step of that journey. So they end up reaching out saying they're ready. So I don't always have to do a sales call. It usually will jump over the sales call into a consultation call so we can get the work started. But if I am doing a sales call, if I am closing the sale, I haven't had it where I've even had to ask, okay, so these are my brand packages. How do you feel about this? Let's talk about price. Let's talk about this. I haven't even had to get to that point because they've seen all of my content has outlined and it's laid it out for them of what they can expect and how they can expect to work with me. And I'm very transparent on my website and in all of the pieces of information I share of how much something might cost and the fact that it is customizable. So, what somebody paid to launch their lead magnet could be slightly different because you might have different needs. So, having these really open, transparent conversations on that quote unquote sales call, by the end of the call, they're asking me, okay, so I want all of these things we just discussed. How much is this going to cost me? And when can we get started? Instead of on the flip side, where I'm having to stop the call and pitch my services, right? So you see the difference there. And so that's why when I titled this training, Close the Sale in One Call or Less, the or less is actually like the biggest part of this equation because you may not even need the sales call if you do all of the kind of quote unquote the right things leading up to it. So the right things, those are different for everybody, right? But it's how you show up, it's the consistency, it's who you're being when you're showing up, when you're posting your content. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because I've got a fantastic way of doing this training. I'm actually like pretty stoked about it because I use this new service that one of my biz besties and one of the clients I'm about to start working with on a really, really fun project with her, Miss Pamela Taylor. If you're watching this, shout out to you. So right here in this bottom corner, you see where it says made with Gamma. This is like a new thing that I think Pamela learned it from Elise. I mean, that's the freaking power of social media, right? Somebody learns something, they turn around and they teach it, and then everybody else starts learning it and implementing it. And that's why these trainings are so valuable. And that's why I tell my clients, show up and teach something that you just learned. You don't have to be the expert. So I made this presentation. Let me just tell you how I made this. Like, it's going to blow your mind. So what I did is I took an email that I wrote, which actually I can show you guys real quick. Okay, so let's go to the email that I wrote. So I'm transitioning from AWeber to Go High Level. So I wrote this email on Sunday, right? If you guys are on my subscriber list, you got this email. Close the sale in one call or less. So I wrote this email. I had all of this written out, ready to go. What I did was I copied this email, I pasted it into the gamma.app website as a, I think it was a Word, let's see, create new. Yeah, the text transform. See, it's all right here. I pasted it into the text transform, and then I generated the document. And then after generating the document, I personalized it and just made it like I added photos of me. I added sort of things that were more on brand for me because I didn't like the templates that they had. And then, of course, I went through and I checked all the copy. I made sure there wasn't like typos and things like that. But like, how freaking cool is that? Boom, boom, boom. One email created a whole presentation, created a whole live, was part of my post on Monday. Like, you guys, this is how you do content. This is how your content sells your business. So let's dive into this. How to close the sale in one call or less. Getting on the phone with potential clients can be super duper nerve wracking. Like, I remember like having to do sales calls, phone calls to pitch my services. Let's just stop right there. Stop pitching. We are not trying to convince anybody of anything. If they are not ready for what you have, then they are not ready. Move on to the next person. And if they are your dream client and they're not ready, then continue to nurture them. Keep them in your, free value containers and just drip value on them. They'll be ready. But getting on the call, you guys, I used to be so freaking nervous, like pit sweat, butterflies in my stomach, total blank mind, right? I'm like, I need all the notes because I can't fucking remember what I'm supposed to say. It's not about what you're supposed to say. It's about connecting. It's about getting to know somebody, right? So eventually it wasn't nerve wracking for me, but the first few times it totally was. And that is completely normal. You have to exercise that muscle if you expect to get any better at it. So if you need to do practice sales calls, do those. Like, honestly, that is one of the things that helped get me over that hump is all of the extra certifications that I have. If you're on my email list, you see at the bottom, I'm certified as a branding strategist, a business strategist, a high performance coach, a mindset coach, ignited life coach. Like I have all these certifications now. And inside of those certifications, we were encouraged to do like mock sales calls. Yeah, it felt really awkward at first, but I'm telling you, it really helped me get over that hump. So find a business bestie and do some mock sales calls if you're like really bad at it. Because we all suck in the beginning. In order to get better, you got to just do it. So, yes, I know it's nerve-wracking, but addressing objections head on in this sales call and setting really clear intentions for what the call is about and for can turn those calls into incredibly powerful and empowering conversations. The whole objective of this sales call is not so you can make a sale, it's so you can allow the other person on the other end to feel so empowered to say yes, to know without a shadow of a doubt that you're the person they want to work with. You want to give them so many reasons to say yes that no isn't even an option. And it is not about manipulation, it is about connection. So let's move into setting your intentions. So, 3 different things I want to touch on here. And the reason I did this presentation style is because I thought that you guys would get a lot of value out of seeing it as well as hearing it. So you could take notes if you wanted to, or take screenshots or whatever. What I can do is I can actually add this presentation to the comments. So you guys can maybe just download it. I'll work on that after I finish this. So set your intentions for the call. Are you focusing on serving during this call, or are you focusing on selling? Because I'll be honest with you, most people are focused on selling, and ew, nobody wants to be on those calls. I've been on those calls before, and I'm like, when is this going to be over? Because like I thought I wanted to buy this, and now I'm not vibing with this person, and now I'm like stuck on this call. Nobody wants to be sold to. Focus on serving. Set the intention to serve. Be super curious about why they're even there, what they're looking to achieve, what they want to build, right? Ask questions. Let them talk about themselves. People love to talk about themselves. Ask lots of questions. Your goal is to understand if you're a good fit for each other, not to convince anyone of anything. We are not convincing, we are conveying. This is what I can offer to you. What do you think, right? Are you considering? How would you feel if you took action today, right? Focus on serving. 2, be present. Be super present in the moment. Avoid distractions and focus on the conversation that you're having. Put your phone on silent. Like, unless you're using your phone to have an example while you're speaking to them, do you know how rude it is if you're in a conversation with somebody and you're like, oh, hold on a minute. I got to answer this and tell them I'll get back to them later. What? No, you should have already blocked your calendar out because you knew you were going to be spending time with me, right? That's how someone will feel. So be super present in the moment. Give your full attention because it will show that you value their time and their unique needs right then and there. If someone doesn't feel like you're valuing their time, they are sure as hell not going to value whatever program, service, product you're talking to them about. The value is just going to go right into the ground if you're not valuing their time that you guys are spending together on that call. And then stay positive, not like in a super weird, bubbly, I'm not reading the room kind of way, but stay positive because even if the call doesn't lead to a sale, view each of these calls as an opportunity to build a new relationship and learn something new. You're always learning something new. Even a no is a really good thing because now you know. Now you know that a no simply means they don't have enough information to be a yes. So if you are certain that this person is like your dream client and you really want to work with them, but they're a no right now, and they're like, oh, this just, it isn't for me. Like maybe I don't have the money, I don't have the time, right? All of these objections, address them head on. So let me give you an example of like if someone was to say, uh, you know, this is too expensive. This is too expensive. So you could ask a clarifying question and be like, expensive compared to what? Right? So if you see the value in this program, if you see the value in working with me and getting this work done, what about this is too expensive? Because value and price are very different things, right? The perception of those two things are very different. So you could just straight up ask, exactly what do you mean by too expensive? And compared to what? Right? So if someone was going to go buy a new car and they were told by the car salesman that the car is $20,000, yeah, they're going to be like, oh, God, that's expensive. But it's a car and a car doesn't cost $5. So they're like, okay, well, I see the value in it. And that's just like what it is, right? So your product, your service, whatever programs you're offering, you know the values there. So all you are really responsible of is giving them enough information for them to see the value to become a yes. The no is super valuable. The no is super, super valuable. So don't get down on yourself. Don't end the call like, okay, well, bye. Like, stay positive. Allow them to stay in your world. Give them resources, give them alternatives that can keep them plugged in and busy until they become a yes. Right? And not busy as in busy work, but busy as in, hey, go implement this thing. Hey, go try this. After we get off this call, and maybe let's like check in with each other in about a week or two. And in the meantime, go try this. I would love to see how it works for you. Like, give them some sort of action steps and resources that they can stay plugged into you. Because clearly they want to be in your world. They booked the call in the first place. So stay super positive about it. Connect with purpose. You're not just connecting to make a freaking sale, right? You're connecting with purpose. So, right from the get go on that call, you are building rapport. This is the phase where you are establishing some common ground with them. You're learning about their business. You're asking thoughtful questions to show that you're invested in their story. And ideally, you already know some of these things about them because you have done your homework and you have at least looked at their social media profiles and gotten a good idea of where it looks like they're at. So when you ask these questions and you sort of establish that common ground and you learn about their business, it's really just to confirm and clarify that what you're seeing and witnessing on their social medias is actually what is going on in their life. Because, right, we know real life and social are not always the same. It's pretty rare you find someone as transparent as myself and a lot of people that you see online. Yeah, a lot of the photos you see of me, those are professionally taken photos. You don't see me every day, but you guys know what I look like. And then I show up and say the F word a lot. So, you feel like you know me in a sense once we get on the call. You're like, oh, well, she's totally like the same as she is online. I actually went to an event recently and someone told me that. They were like, oh, I've followed your stuff and like you're the same as online when I watch your lives. And I was like, yeah, yeah. Like I don't put on any kind of air when I'm online. So build that rapport and get to know them. And you can ask like super simple icebreaker stuff. Where are you calling from? Oh, you're in Texas? No shit. I live in Texas too. That's amazing. I knew you were on Central Time Zone. I just didn't know where in the world you were. That's so great. Have you always lived in Texas? Oh, no, I moved here from California. Whoa, really? What a big change. Like, create conversation, you guys. Like, how would you talk to somebody if you just met them, at the line in Starbucks or something? Build rapport, make it personal, right? Make it personal. Let your own personality shine through by sharing anecdotes and insights that are relatable to what they're going through. Because this will help build the trust and sort of that mutual respect. And so, let's say like someone's getting started out in their brand and their business. They're like, I'm just feeling really confused about my brand. I really just don't know where to get started. Hello, I was there too. We all start at zero, right? So I totally get it. My brand, I had no idea what I was doing with my brand until finally I did enough of that inner work and I kept showing up consistently and kept making mistakes and being okay with it, that eventually I found my voice. I found my brand. I found the way I wanted to show up. But I had to take action and I had to kind of do it in a messy way and be okay with it being a little bit messy so I could then find the clarity. Clarity isn't going to come from doing nothing. So you relate to them, you make it personal. You've been through that journey. And if for some reason you can't actually relate, right? You're not going to be lying and telling some story about your life that never happened. That's not a good way to establish a relationship. So if you truly cannot relate, for example, I don't have children. So if someone's like, I just can't with the time, like my kids are running me ragged and all the things, I can be like, oh man, I can only imagine. Like you're freaking superwoman. The fact that you are building a business, raising kids, cooking dinner, and still living your life. Like I can't even imagine, but boy, am I so in awe of you. I do have some fantastic tips on time management that I think maybe you could implement into your life. And maybe this could help time block things so you can have the career and the business and the brand, and you can have the family life that you desire. So even though I don't have kids, I related to that situation in a way that was really honest for me. So make it personal. And then, of course, exploring possibilities. Go beyond their immediate needs and explore how your work together can bring new growth and opportunities to help them realize their long term vision. This happens a lot on calls that I do with branding because so frequently, people think, okay, I've got this big brand, right? This whole idea. I see people building big brands online. They have websites, they have podcasts, they have all of the things, all of the marketing pieces in place. So I allow the conversation to explore those possibilities. And then I bring it back in and say, all right, I'm super excited about where your vision is for this brand and this business. We can absolutely make this happen together. Let's start here. And we start with one thing because it's not about overwhelming them, but it's about giving them the space to play and explore what are these possibilities when we work together? What kind of growth can my business see? What are the possibilities 6 months from now after working with you that I'm going to see in my business? And then bring it back to the now. And let's get started right now with this one thing, because this one thing getting started right now is going to take you to all of these possibilities we just talked about. Then, as we're in the call and we're fully getting settled in and we're like totally relating to each other, by this time, we're freaking besties. Like we could talk all day, but you're going to be very mindful of your time and of their time. So, knowing how much time you've allotted for this call, you're going to have to be very mindful. And that's why having those practice calls can be really good. So by this time, by this phase of the call, you're establishing their desire to even make change. So you've already kind of heard, okay, where are they at in their business right now? Let's relate, let's personalize it, and then let's explore some possibilities of where they want to go with the business. So your next phase you're going to focus on is establishing their desire for change. So you're going to reconfirm what's their current state. What challenges, roadblocks, or gaps are they currently facing? Ask them, where are you right now in your business? And what challenges, roadblocks, or gaps are keeping you there? What are you currently struggling with? Ask them these questions. And then you want to move into the future state. You're going to ask them, awesome. Thank you for sharing your current state of where your business is with me. This is a really solid foundation for us to kickstart where we want to go. So Where do you want to be? And what does that success look like to you? Establish the future state. Where do they want to go with this? Do they only want to, boost their business by just like a fraction and go from making $100 a month to $500 a month? Do they want to go from $500 a month to 10,000 a month, right? What is the jump that they're wanting to make? Because that's going to be a huge indicator of how much work has to be done in between, right? How big is that gap between their current state and their future state? Because you're the one that's going to help them fill that gap. And so you really need to establish, how big is it? How long is it going to take us to get there? How many hours of work is it going to take us to get there? Is the program that we got on this call to talk about the right fit based on what they just told you? So always be prepared to pivot and to understand that how the call started may not be how the call ends. But being super present and being there to fully serve and communicate and understand where they're coming from, it doesn't really matter where the call ends. It's what happens in between. It's all the good stuff, all the conversation in between. So you establish their current state, you establish the future state. And then you sort of explore, why bother changing, right? How big is that gap? And how much do they really want to close it? So you can ask things like, if you weren't to take any action right now, what would that mean for your business? How would you benefit from taking action? Right? So if you were to do nothing today, what would your business look like in 6 months? Now, on the flip side, if you were to say yes today and we were to start working together immediately, what would your business look like in 6 months? So why bother with change? Help them see that you're the one that's going to help them close the gap. And then, of course, you provide your unique value, how you uniquely will help them make the transition and what this partnership will provide to them that they can't necessarily get elsewhere. Because how you show up, how you provide services and products and programs and all the things, nobody else does it like you. Yeah, there's a zillion and one business coaches out there since 2020. I get it. I know it can feel super saturated, but nobody shows up the way you do. Nobody speaks the way you do. Nobody connects the way you do. Nobody has the same kind of humor that you do. So what is your unique value that they're not going to get from anybody else? And how are you going to help them make the transition from that current state to the future state? So establishing their desire for change is huge, because if they're like, oh, I really want to get to 10 grand a month, but I'm not willing to put in any extra work. Like what I'm currently doing, that's all the work I'm going to do, but I expect my revenue to increase. I'm sorry, no. Something has to change. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this call, right? So you really have to establish what is their desire for change. And it'll become super clear when you ask these questions. And then, of course, don't show, tell them. Tell them what could be, right? Clarity through contrast. This is big. And I've heard this a lot recently, contrast. So here's an example of contrast. Growing up poor, now having money. That's contrast. You value having the money in your bank account now because you didn't have it before. That's contrast, right? Contrast is simply you're experiencing something now that you didn't have then. So you can appreciate it in a way that maybe somebody who's always had money can't appreciate, right? So that's what contrast is. So the status quo, if they continue doing what they're doing, where will they be in 6 months, 1 year, 5 years? What opportunities will they miss out on? What are the likely consequences of not making change now? So you see how all of these phases are tying into each other, right? It creates this flow of conversation. And so You show them, okay, this is the new reality. How can working with you bring new growth, stability, and freedom? What benefits do they stand to gain from this shift? And what are some concrete examples you've gotten your past clients? So, this is where the show them, don't tell them comes into play. You can talk about testimonials. So, I had this one client, she came to me, she was incredibly confused about her logo design. And it didn't help that who she was as a person and the product she was selling didn't really seem to be super cohesive. What we did was we found a way to mix these two worlds together to create the vibe and the sort of essence of her brand that truly fit her, because I helped her understand that her brand and her business is not what she does, it's who she is. So she stopped worrying about the fact that who she is didn't seem to really coincide with what she sold, because what she sold is just a byproduct of, her showing up. But when she attracts the right people to her, it's who she is that's attracting them, not what she sells. See? So you show, you don't tell, you give examples. Who are the people that you've worked with before? And if you don't have, like, if you're brand spanking new and you don't have testimonials, use your own, experience. Because if you're teaching something, if you have a program, if you have a service, if you have a product, if you are teaching something, you better be achieving that thing for yourself already. You can't be a money coach and not be making money. You can't be a relationship coach and have a shitty relationship. You can't be a branding consultant and designer and not have a brand, not have a website, not have things that can showcase your branding work. You have to be the example. So if you don't have past clients and testimonials yet, use yourself, be the example, and allow them to see what this new reality can be for them. And then as we near the end of the call, you're going to invite and support. So at this point, you're going to make some custom recommendations. And by this point in the call, they should feel really empowered to make the right decision for themselves. Now, whether that's a yes or a no, that's really not up to you. They should feel empowered to make a decision and be clear on the value that you provide. Outline some specific recommendations that are tailored to their business's unique needs and goals. So again, I mentioned this in the beginning. If they happen to be a no, not right now, no problem. I can see you're not quite ready for this yet. I want you to be a hell yes before we get started. So in the meantime, I'm going to plug you into a couple podcast episodes and a couple of my trainings that are inside of my community. And I'm going to give you an action step to go implement after you watch this stuff. And then we're going to meet back up and you're going to tell me about it. So essentially, you're kind of providing some of this like pocket coaching for a very short interim. And this is something that, you're the CEO of your business. You don't want to do this, don't do it. But this is something I would recommend to continue building the rapport and building the relationship if they are truly somebody you want to work with. Now, don't do this for people that you're like, I didn't really vibe with them. Like, they're not for me. Okay. So if they're a no, then that's what it was meant to be. And you just thank them for their time and you let them know that they're free to, continue to explore your community and ask any questions, and that you're here to support them if they ever need, right? Don't go chasing somebody that you don't actually want to work with, is what I'm saying. And then transparency and flexibility. Show that you value their time and investment by providing full transparency of your process and any potential risks or challenges that may come up along the way. Be open to adjusting your approach as needed and achieve their desired outcomes. So, what kind of time and investment are they going to have to put in whenever they work with you? Make it super clear for them. Is it a 6-month program? Is it a 12-month program? For me, if it's the branding work, there's a lot of one-on-one time up front. So we can iron out all of the details of the brand and the vision and the goals of where we want to go. And then after that, it's just, hey, just be on standby. If I have questions, I'm going to reach out to you at any time, during my working hours, and you just get back to me within 24 to 48 hours. Like, just establishing that relationship is really important, because they need to know, like, if one of their objections is they don't have time for this, you can let them know, like, hey, the entire program can be done on my phone, right? Like, you don't have to have computers and monitors and binders and workbooks and all the things. Everything is digital. So it really doesn't matter where you're at. You can be listening to training modules when you drive to and from work. So whatever it is that you offer, be sure that you express to them, this is the time commitment and this is the investment commitment. And for full transparency, this is the type of, you may run into some challenges where, let's say you feel like you're coming near the end of the program and you haven't finished all the modules yet. Okay, well, maybe it's a program that offers lifetime access. Maybe it isn't. So you need to establish that up front. If it's a 6-month program and they do not get lifetime access and they are nearing the end of their 6 months, you can check in on them and say, hey, I'm super pumped. We're going to be wrapping up your program, in the next 30 days or so. Be sure that you complete all the modules, because you're not going to be able to access them after this date. Let them know these things up front, right? You can then remind them down the road, of course. But transparency is huge, you guys. It really allows people to see the full value of the program and see past all of those pesky objections. Commitment and results. Explain how your process will lead to tangible results and how you will track progress along the way. So do you have accountability built in, right? What are some of these tangible results? And I know that that can feel a little bit harder when it comes to the coaching space, because tangible results would be your students are making more sales or getting more clients, things of that nature, which you as the coach don't have full responsibility of, but your program and paired with your accountability of the program should be getting them those tangible results. And so you preface that. If you do all of the work, if you show up to all of our accountability calls, if you plug in and you commit to doing what you say you're going to do and what this program is outlined to do, you will get XYZ. So for me in branding, it's a little bit easier having tangible results, because there's almost always a tangible result at the end of every time we work together. They have a launched lead magnet. They have a website built. They have an email campaign, right? Like they have a logo. It's all the things that are tangible. So just outline that for them. And then let them know, especially if it's a coaching program, that you're going to be tracking progress and giving them accountability along the way. A lot of people need that. And if someone doesn't, they will straight up tell you, I don't need accountability and I don't want you checking in with me. Okay, sure. Doesn't mean you're not going to, but you won't do it in the same manner, right? And then, of course, the investment. Reassure them that your number one priority is getting them results, whatever that result may be, right? If it's a product, if it's a service, if it's a program, what is the result? And your number one priority, if it isn't already, it should be, get them results. We all know that one of the fastest ways to level up your business is to align with somebody that has walked through the path that you're looking to take. And never underestimate the power of operating within your zone of genius. So the reason I say this, never underestimate the power of operating within your zone of genius. I have a couple people, actually, a couple clients of mine that I've worked with. They have said to me, I actually love doing design work. I love playing around in Canva. I have a lot of fun doing it, but it's not actually my zone of genius and it's not my business. Like, it's part of my business because it's marketing, it's branding, but it's not the business. And I don't really want to spend my valuable time doing it. So then they hire me to do it, right? So that's what I mean by your zone of genius. What is the thing that you love to do the most that is going to get you paid? And then everything else that helps your business flow and run If it's not within that zone of genius that I just said, it's what you absolutely love and it's going to get you paid. If it's outside of that realm, then think about outsourcing it to somebody else because everybody's got a zone of genius and you don't have to do it all. CEOs don't do it all. They learn how to delegate. All right. So by the end of the call, you're building up those long-term relationships, right? So the call has ended and you're setting the expectation for what's to come. Be sure that you follow up with this person after the call has ended. So whether it ended in a sale or not, if they are a qualified potential client, keep the conversation going. Do not let this conversation dry up. If this is someone you truly want to work with and the call ended in a no, not right now, keep the conversation going. Their no is usually because they don't have enough information to say yes. And then mentorship, provide ongoing mentorship and guidance after the call with your content. This does not mean all of a sudden you have a one-on-one client because you're mentoring them for free to get them to sign up for, a group coaching program or something. That is not what I mean by this. Mentor through your content. Remember the title of this was one call or less. This is the or less part. All of your content should be selling for you, not in a salesy, spammy way. It should be conveying to people exactly what you're an expert at and how you can help them get from their current state to their future state. That's what your content is doing. And that's how it's selling. And that's how it's mentoring long after the sales call has ended. So be the go-to person that they turn to when they're looking for guidance, growth, and success. They will become a yes. The more you educate, the more you pour into them, the more information that they get, and the closer they become to being a yes. And then, of course, beyond the call, stay connected and let them know when you have other opportunities for them to plug into you and your expertise. Check in with them, provide resources that can help with their unique position. Drop podcast episodes in their DMs. Hey, I just recorded this episode. It aired today. I thought of you. It talks about XYZ, which is exactly what we were chatting about on our sales call a couple of weeks ago. I thought you'd enjoy it. Plug them into resources. If you've got free workshops or master classes or something that you do on a regular basis, add them to your list of people that you let know, hey, I've got an opportunity for you to learn something new and plug into me and my community and my expertise. If you're available, come on, we'd love to have you. So beyond the call, you're building this relationship. It doesn't just stop there, right? And you can, of course, share success stories with them. So these are just some like testimonials that I plugged in really quickly, but real results create real impact. And like I mentioned before, if you don't have testimonials just yet, you should be your best testimonial. If you are not leading by example, well, then I don't know what you're doing. You reassess the situation. So if you want to see this in action, right? You saw me talking about this, but there was a lot of conversation around it. This was a training. But if you want to fully see this in action and you want to see this process and at the same time take a deep dive into your own brand and business, then book a complimentary brand Q&A call with me. And you can book it at socialjanemedia.com. On that homepage, you just scroll to the bottom. There's a nice big calendar there. Grab a time that works for you and let's see this in action. But only do this if you actually want to take a deep dive into your brand and into your business. This is for people that are ready to dive into their brand and their business because I honor my time and I honor your time. And there's a whole form that's attached to the calendar that will help me understand where we're at when we have this call. So you'll see if you decide to take these steps and see this in action, pay very close attention about the journey that you're taken through, because then you can turn around and you can implement something similar for yourself. I set up a lot of stuff on the front end. You fill out a very detailed form. So that way, when we get on the call, we can get right to it. We can, of course, build some rapport in the beginning, but the meat of the call, the actual purpose of the call, we are going to get some shit done. And we are going to discover some opportunities for your business and maybe uncover some things that aren't working, right? So if you want to see it in action, go to socialjanemedia.com, scroll to the bottom, you'll see the calendar there and book a time that works for you. But you guys, this was a really good training. And I know that this is something that so many people struggle with. You don't have to be struggling with this, but you do need to practice it. If you feel like you totally suck, you need to practice. Grab a business bestie and get some practice going. If you're watching this inside of the Social Jane community, make a post in the community that says, hey, I want to practice a sales call. Who else wants to practice with me? You might have some people raising their hands going, ooh, I need to practice. And guess what? When you start practicing these sales calls, guess what's also happening? You're making a new connection. You're growing your network. You're plugging into other people. And when you're having these sales calls, you're learning about what other people do. They're learning about what you do. Maybe you get a new client out of it. Maybe you get a new relationship out of it. This isn't about poaching by any means, but this is about connection. So you don't have to suck all the time, but you got to practice if you don't want to suck. So close the sale in one call or less. You guys, let me know how you enjoyed this training, especially with like the presentation side of it. Because this is something that I would like to continue doing if you are finding value in it and you enjoy this sort of, the vibe of it, if you like it. So until next time, be sure to get yourself into the Social Jane community so you can go to the guide section. You can see all of our past trainings. It's like a resource library inside of there. It's freaking awesome. And of course, the Social Jane community always has first dibs on stuff that's like coming out. They can request podcast episodes. So you want to be in the community for a few of those extra little perks. But again, my name's Sarah, and I truly appreciate you guys being here. And I hope you have a fabulous day.